So in this inaugural episode of the extended edition, I'm going to look at the director's cuts of two films I didn't have the most enthusiastic reactions to theatrically. Those would be Len Wiseman's 2012 Total Recall remake and David Twohy's Riddick. So first off, it's a Total Recall remake from director Len Wiseman. Now, the original film from Paul Verhoeven is a great, action-packed, thrilling, fun film. The only thing that's really ever turned me off about the film is just the aesthetics of it. The lighting of the sets and everything looks very cheap and flat, and it's not really kind of endeared itself to me in that type of way, but everything else in the film is excellent, fun, action-packed adventure type of stuff. One of Arnold's best films, absolutely, positively. One of his most quotable films with great lines like, "Give these people air, see you at the Party Richter." All these great lines that... One of the best quotable Arnold films of all time. Great script, great stuff all over the place, but because the aesthetic level of the film, the thing that just like the visuals of the film never really captured me, really kind of drew me in the film, kind of turned me away from it a little bit, I was open to seeing this remake and giving it a fair chance. And theatrically, the film didn't really impress. That it felt kind of bland, kind of flat, kind of hollow. Kind of indicative of Len Wiseman's directing style, that he is a great director of action, but he kind of lacks charisma in his films, that he really doesn't try to really inject a real great sense of fun and excitement in a certain way, like an Arnold film. Love really good action films really kind of capture a certain personality or charisma and everything, and just how they present the story and the action and everything. And Len Wiseman's films don't quite get to that certain point. But I like Len Wiseman in a way that he loves trying to put as much practical elements into every little thing he shoots. Every action scene, every stunt, every little thing he tries to do, every effect shot, he wants to have something practical and tangible in those shots. And learning that kind of stuff, listening to the commentary on this director's cut, really kind of made me appreciate what he tries to do as a director. Even though he doesn't succeed as well as I like him to in a lot of places, he does have a lot of good qualities going for him. And like I said, the theatrical cut really didn't impress. It felt like, the main thing is, it feels like it was very, very heavy on action and very lightweight on the story. That it doesn't doesn't capitalize so much on the concept of the film, the reality bending, mind bending type of stuff. It really kind of felt like a lightweight concept as it was executed in this cut of the film. Now with the director's cut, because I'm going to go kind of point, counterpoint, back and forth between these types of things. In the director's cut, there's much more of an exploration of the concept. They get much more into the ideas that it can present to an audience. The director's cut really adds a lot more fine layers of certain things, just little things here and there that make a little slightly smarter film that is really trying to push things a little further, add in a couple of little original ideas, because in the theatrical cut it really felt like they drained out all kind of originality that they possibly could have with the concept, and really just kind of laid back on all the retreaded concepts, retreaded plot points, everything from the original movie. In the director's cut, they kind of introduced a couple little things, such as, in the director's cut, the character of Carl Hauser and Douglas Quaid are portrayed by two separate actors, but they're the same character. Carl Hauser is portrayed by Ethan Hawke in this version. When he goes to the apartment and sees the hologram, there's a cosmetic surgery done to Carl Hauser before he's made the recall change in his mind and everything, where they replace his memories. And it adds an extra layer of things that the film I like a lot of the things that the film does slightly differently than the first film, where in the first film you got Carl Hauser, he's definitely being deceptive all the way through. Carl Hauser is the guy who's working with Cohagen, and everything else is a deception. In this version of the film, they skew it to a different place. That it goes to a part where Carl Hauser intends to go in and infiltrate and do everything that Arnold's character did in the first film, but instead he becomes genuinely romantically involved with the character of Melina, and that alters him, that changes him to a person who is completely, genuinely, honestly for the resistance. And that creates, and in the director's cut, it really kind of highlights those qualities more, because in the theatrical, they really drained out a lot of the potential for the romantic interest in the film between Quaid and Melina in the film. because in the director's cut they added in a few extra little beats right from the beginning of the film. From the first scene, you get a few extra beats showing that there is much more of an emotional connection between these two characters. And I like that throughout the film it flashes back to this one single moment that they have together in this post-surgery scene and everything. And Len Wiseman's commentary really kind of highlights that. It does keep going. You can look at the film completely, much more ambiguity heavy in this version of the film, but it really kind of alludes to the fact that perhaps that this one scene that he keeps flashing back to, Quaid, Hauser, whatever you want to call him, is that one thing, that one feeling deep down within his self is not going to be erased by a recall memory wipe or anything. So that adds in that extra layer of emotion and much more endearing charm and everything, because I felt with the quality of the characters in the theatrical cut, they were very bland, they were really flat and hollow, they didn't have a lot of things, there was no charisma on display, because Colin Farrell could be an amazingly charismatic actor, especially in the comedies that he's done. He shows he has the complete talent to be a very charismatic, scene-stealing type of talent. But when you put him in an action film, a lot of the directors and everything kind of go for much more of that straight, serious, somber type of character and everything, and they don't add in more charisma to the character in the director's cut, but what you get are more little beats of charm and endearing quality with the character of Douglas Quaid. There's a few extra beats added in that just spark a little extra something that just, the little bit that they put in there really kind of goes a long way for me, because like I said, the theatrical cut, I thought they did a lot of great action, but it was so heavy on the action and so thin on the story that it really just like, it was okay. It just like, it didn't really do anything for me. But these little extra added beats here and there with the emotional qualities, little extra layers to the ambiguity of the story and everything, really kind of like this made it much more of an even, well-balanced type of film. Because also being very heavy on the action, the film, when it got to the point where it was the actual third act of the film, because there was so much action wall to wall in this film and very long action sequences up to a certain point, that felt like there was a lot of unnecessary overworked action sequences that felt like if this film was turned into a video game, it'd probably be a very satisfying video game with all these different unique scenarios that they keep falling into with all this stuff. But because there was so much action jam-packed in the film, it never felt like there was an actual escalation of anything going into the third act, so it just felt like an even playing going throughout the whole film, and there never felt like there was that punch-up of an escalation or whatnot. But because you got all these extra added little bits of emotion, little bits of character, little things here and there that just kind of add a little bit more to the quality of the characters, to me, watching this time, it felt like there was that extra something going on. There was a little extra tinge of emotion that really kind of elevated things up to that next point in the film. And like I said, I really like that they add more of that quality between Douglas Quaid and Melina in the film, that just these little, it takes these little moments just to take a pause and just reconnect these characters at certain points throughout the film. I think those little bits, like I said, go a hell of a long way for me. However, there is one much more extended scene in this film that I thought didn't quite work so well. That there is a scene in this film that is an allegory to the one in the original version, where the head of recall is meeting with Quaid and everything, trying to explain to him that he is in an illusion, he is in a recall construct and everything. In this version of the film, in this cut of the film, this scene where Quaid's friend Harry comes to him, played by Bokeem Woodbine, in the theatrical cut, it's an okay scene. It gets the point across, but it's nothing special or anything. In this version, in this cut of the film, the director's cut, they extend that scene so much further out, kind of add in more and more layers to the whole deception, trying to confuse and convince Quaid that he is, again, in a construct, in an illusion and everything. I get the idea what they're going for. I really do. Everything in there was good ideas, but it goes around in circles with all this explanation for this, explanation for that, trying to, almost like if they were trying to address the audience of the film, trying to deflect any kind of nitpick an audience would have about every little thing in the scene that say, well, why is he wearing a bulletproof vest. Well, no, that's because you're trying to protect me, Quaid, and everything, so you put this vest on me, because I'm just a construct of your mind and everything. And the ideas are sound, but it sounds like a lot of unnecessary run around in circles, and the scene just goes on and on and on and on to... In the theatrical cut, it's much more to the point. It gets the ideas across. It just does it in a much more succinct fashion. And there is an extra scene at the end of the film, adding further ambiguity to the whole idea of the film, the whole what's real, what's not, whatever it is. There's a extra beat at the end where, because when Quaid goes to recall originally, they put a little sort of stamp or whatnot on the inside of his elbow and everything, and in this extra scene, it's not there anymore. On the surface level, it would probably just suggest to you that, yeah, okay, it is all just an illusion, it's just a dream or whatnot. But listening to Len Wiseman's commentary, he explains a little bit. He kind of, throughout the whole commentary, he really kind of gets you in depth about everyone's discussions about every little thing that they had in the film, how everything can be viewed from a different point of view, every different little perspective that they looked at things to see more beyond the surface levels. Like maybe, well, like a stamp at a nightclub, this thing could wash off between the blood and the rain and everything that he's gone through. And maybe it's just a stamp. Maybe it's just that. Something that can wash off, wear off. Maybe that's all it is, and then all this stuff really happened. On the other hand, maybe it's not. Maybe that stamp only exists in the real world and not in the dream world that he's in through recall. So it can go either way, bounce back and forth. And I kind of like the idea, because in certain films like this, I kind of tend to just kind of base things off of a surface level, because usually when I'm watching films, I don't have someone else there to really kind of bounce ideas off and try to spark different points of view and everything. It's usually like, I'm watching the film, that's what I see. It's a little detriment to me that I don't have that communal experience in a film, going to experience everything. But it's good to kind of listen to that kind of commentary. He does a very good commentary on the film, and sparkle those other perspectives that you could have on the film. So once you listen to the commentary, really kind of see that they did think things through to a certain extent to see different points of view that you can adopt or try to go with and everything. But on the whole, I thought this director's cut really was a significant improvement over the theatrical. Obviously, it's not going to still measure up to Verhoeven's film on all the conceptual levels and everything, or the excitement or charisma or whatnot, but I think it did a much better job in this cut, really kind of exploring some of the ideas, throwing a few little original things here and there. And like I said, I kind of like that cosmetic surgery angle where you have Ethan Hawke portraying Carl Hauser and Colin Farrell portraying Douglas Quaid, which makes a much more stronger detachment of identity between the two personalities of this one man. I think it just adds an extra fine layer of things that just adds the ambiguity, adds to the deception, adds to every little quality that's trying to be added into this film to make it a much more thought out type of process and everything. In this extended director's cut, I think it's a much stronger film, much more well balanced film, because like I said, the theatrical was much more very, very heavy on the action and much more lightweight on the story. This version adds in more story, makes it a little bit more balanced, a little bit better structurally distinct and everything. I just think it's a much stronger film in this cut. Now let's talk a little bit about Riddick, because this was a film I was anticipating for a very long time. I think Pitch Black is a very good film, a lot of good stuff in the film, but Chronicles of Riddick was really the film that appealed to me on such a strong level. That big space opera adventure type of film, big scope, big consequences. I loved the film in its director's cut form. I loved it a lot. So waiting all these years for another film to come along was a big anticipation for me. And when I saw it theatrically, I was a little let down by the film. There was just a couple of things about it. I wasn't too fond of the first act of the film, where things were just were completely that survival mode of everything. Not a lot of character or anything going on. The second part of the film really kind of amped things up with much more characters, much more interesting things going on. But the end of the film really kind of really just didn't do it for me, because I'll get in a little more later on because there's extra scenes obviously in this cut of the film. But the ending of the film, in detail, I'm talking all spoilers here and everything, because the character of Big Daddy Johns, he leaves Riddick behind to die. He leaves him barren, alone, to fend off for himself and die on this planet. 10 minutes later, he comes back in, swoops in, saves the day, and Riddick is not the hero of the film. Riddick gets into the biggest, toughest situation he's ever possibly been in, almost certain death, and someone else has to swing in and save his ass and bail him out, and just like, that's not Riddick for me. That's not what I want to see from Riddick. I don't want someone else come in and save Riddick's ass when he should be the hero of the film, coming out and being the biggest badass in the fucking universe, fending something off and finding some way to survive or whatnot. But obviously writing themselves into the corner that they were with that scene, I don't know how else you could do it without completely restructuring the whole ending of the film. Watching the director's cut, maybe it's just watching the film again simply on that regard. I enjoyed it a lot more. Every section of the film I liked a lot more. The first section of the film I appreciated a whole lot more. The second section, obviously, I already enjoyed it a hell of a lot. A lot of action, a lot of character, a lot of great fun stuff going on there. Generally, there's not a lot of extra added content in the film, but they do extend out a lot of the necromonger plot. Extending that storyline out because that seemed to be the thing they really want to kind of downplay to the mass audience, because Chronicles of Riddick was not that big of a success, so they're trying to appeal more to the pitch black audience and everything, trying to scale and veer the film towards that appeal. And my appeal obviously was much more towards Chronicle Riddick and the necromonger stuff. But the extra ad scenes really kind of expand out the dynamics between Riddick and Vaco overall, and Riddick also fends off an assassination attempt by one of his scantily clad ladies. Then there's a couple other little bits and pieces here and there, not too much anything, but mainly there's an extra scene at the end of the film that pushes the necromonger plot a step forward, really kind of saying that Vaco is taking the next step as our necromonger into transcendence, into the underverse and everything. So that would logically set up where they would want to go next with the entire Riddick plot and everything, the storyline that they'd want to do in a following film. But overall, watching it a second time, maybe it's just having my expectations in the right way, knowing what to expect from the film, able to settle down, watch it, enjoy it in a certain way, because when you're watching it the first time, you have a certain expectation, a certain anxiousness to get to what it is that you want to see in the film. Now I get to watch the film, know what to expect, and enjoy and appreciate what they have to offer. And the extended unrated director's cut just adds a little extra things in. If you like the necromonger plot, that kind of stuff, like Chronicles of Riddick, you like that storyline, it adds a little extra in there to feed that kind of desire and everything, which is very much to my liking. And adding that extra scene at the end really kind of helps to a certain extent, but it doesn't fix that one problem I have with the end of the film, having Big Daddy Johns come in, save Riddick's ass, pull him out of the fire, and have Riddick just kind of like not come out of the film feeling triumphant he has someone else save his ass, cart him off the planet, and all that kind of stuff. He didn't win out through his own wits and his own guile, and it was all kind of stuff. Someone else had to save his ass, and I don't think that's really kind of a strong declaration of the quality and intensity and just appeal of the character. All the other films, he's always been the kind of guy who can fend for himself, fight off all these attacks, fight off all these enemies, come out through everything, even if battered and scarred or whatnot. He's always been able to be that triumphant character at the end of the film who won out, he beat out everything, and just a survivor and everything. So that's the one little downturn I have about the movie of Riddick. But overall, I definitely recommend both of the cuts, both director's cuts that I have mentioned here today. The Total Recall remake, definitely the extended cut, really just adds more story into the film, balances out with all the heavy, long action sequences, and just adds a little extra pieces of charm and endearing quality to the main character portrayed by Colin Farrell. And the Riddick unrated director's cut really just adds in more necromonger stuff. It was already violent and gory and bloodlust enough as it was in the theatrical, so it's really all about much more added story elements. And basically all I got for you on this version of the extended edition, and hope you enjoy this insight into these extended director's cuts, stuff like that, because since now I have the Blu-ray player, watch all these exclusive Blu-ray content, all these exclusive cuts and everything that I'm very much excited about, and there's a couple other ones that I have in mind to spotlight in future episodes. So what do you think about these two films? Riddick, Total Recall remake. Did you love them? Did you hate them? Split down the middle. Which one did you like? Which one did you hate? I can probably imagine which ones. But did you get these director's cuts any chance? Have you seen them? Do you enjoy them? Do you think they were better or worse? Let me know what you think about that stuff. And if you want to see more episodes of the extended edition, let me know. Post some comments below. Hit some like buttons. Share the links around. I would very much appreciate it. And as always, take care. Bye-bye.